From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Morning Edition.
Good morning, and thanks for starting your day with us. Today is Saturday, August 23rd. I'm Max Darrow. Here's a look at what we've got at the top of the rundown today. As the Pickett fire continues to burn in Napa, air quality really could be a problem today for a lot of folks in the North Bay. Napa County has issued a health advisory. They're saying if you can see, taste, or smell smoke, you should immediately minimize outdoor activities. There's a separate air quality advisory that's in effect for Napa, Sonoma, and Solano counties. We're going to have the latest updates on the Pickett fire near Calistoga in just a few moments. Bay FC is set to make history tonight in front of a massive crowd at Oracle Park. The team has already sold more than 35,000 tickets for the match today versus the Washington Spirit. That breaks the NWSL single game attendance record. With a capacity of more than 40,000, that crowd could be the largest ever for any women's pro league game in the United States. Kickoff is set for 1 o'clock this afternoon. The 49ers host the Los Angeles Chargers at Levi's Stadium in their final preseason game tonight. This comes as the Niners have just acquired a new running back, Brian Robinson Jr., from the Washington Commanders. This gives the Niners some depth at a position where they've dealt with some injuries in recent years. Coverage of tonight's game begins at 5 o'clock right here on KPIX. Let's bring in First Alert meteorologist Zoe Mintz now. We have serious fire weather to talk about. Firefighters continue to have worked through the night in Napa County on this Pickett fire. Is the weather going to help at all, or are they in for some trouble?
Well, luckily, it's not too windy this morning. Hopefully, you can pull up the monitor next to us because I actually have a very close-up view of that Pickett fire showing you exactly where it is if we can go over there right now. It is growing. It's only about 7% contained, and it is in some populated areas. So that is the biggest concern. You notice the way that it's spreading. It's spreading towards the mountains with westerly winds that are going to continue. Yep. Let's take it out of the ground and show you exactly where that fire is and who it is going to be impacting, because the air quality is really only going to be bad across our North Bay. Let's get a close view. Come on, close it in on the Pickett fire, because this is really what we're concerned about. Up across our North Bay communities, the Pickett fire, like I said, it is only 7% contained, and it's nearly 4,000 acres. It is producing a good amount of smoke, but again, look at the direction of the smoke. Westerly winds are going to continue to push that smoke off and away, closer to our interior communities. So if you live in the North Bay, but closer to the coast, if you live west of Santa Rosa, your air quality is not going to be impacted. But if you live east of it, this is where the worst air quality is going to be for the Pickett fire. But you also probably notice that there is a bit of bad air quality farther south across our inland East Bay communities as well. As over near Dublin and Pleasanton, there is the Park fire. That is definitely more contained, 75% contained, and it's quite a bit smaller, but you notice that it is still creating some smoke. So air quality issues across the inland communities of our inland East Bay and North Bay, but again, closer to the coast, including San Francisco, Oakland, and even down to San Jose, our air quality is not going to be impacted. I'll let you know, though, how much windier it's going to get this afternoon and what you can expect when it comes to that fire weather coming up in my full forecast. Max, back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Zoe. We're going to check in with you soon. The Pickett fire, as she mentioned, does continue to grow in Napa County. It has now burned nearly 4,000 acres, and as of last night, more people in Calistoga, just near those flames, were told to evacuate. This fire is currently the biggest wildfire that Northern California has seen this year. This morning, it is 7% contained. The fire is burning to the northeast of Calistoga in a scar that was left by the glass fire 5 years ago in 2020. CAL FIRE says the fire is burning in really remote areas where crews have limited access from the ground. So helicopters did fly through the night to help battle the flames from up above. About 435 personnel are involved in this around-the-clock effort. Despite the difficult terrain, CAL FIRE does say the fire did remain in control lines. We spoke with a local winemaker who says he is counting on the firefighters to save his vineyard.
It's really good to see that they really hammer it with as many helicopters they can get, as many planes they can get. The quicker they can get this thing out and the smoke can leave, we can make good wine again.
Again, CAL FIRE says as of this morning, the Pickett fire is 7% contained. We may get an update on that in our next half hour or so. And later, we will introduce you to a man with a lot of experience with Napa County wildfires. He'll tell us more about the importance of fuel reduction. Also in the North Bay, investigators are still on the scene in San Rafael's Canal neighborhood after flames tore through an apartment complex early Thursday morning. More than 50 people were displaced as a result of this fire. Officials did find a body on Friday inside of an apartment that burned. They're still not sure if the remains are those of one of two people reported missing. Many families now without homes and unsure of where they will go next. The Red Cross, Chamber of Commerce, and other partners are trying to help them all find a place to land, but there certainly are some challenges that lie ahead.
Ideally, we can transition people straight from the shelter into long-term housing, but as everyone knows, Marin's housing stock is limited, so it might take some time to do that.
As for the investigation, authorities are looking for any evidence of accelerants. They say that by the way the fire spread, based on interviews with residents and how quickly it engulfed the building, this seems like a suspicious incident. California's race for governor is in the early stages, but it is beginning to heat up. The Sonoma County GOP convention is set for this afternoon. Two candidates, media personality Steve Hilton and Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, are the featured speakers. Hilton has been critical of Democrats lately over their plan for redistricting. He called it a crime against democracy. Bianco has been highlighting concerns about crime and the cost of living. Today's convention starts at 3 o'clock at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds. So obviously it's still a long way to go until the governor's race, but a new statewide poll is out, and it shows a Democrat, former Congresswoman Katie Porter, is in the lead with 21% support thus far. Bianco has passed Hilton and moved into second place with 15%. And you can see over there that Steve Hilton, right now, early polls, show him at 10%. In San Mateo County, the first week of testimony has wrapped up in the fight to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus. She stands accused of corruption, retaliation, and of having an inappropriate relationship with a top aide. Inside the courtroom, witnesses described personal moments between Corpus and former Chief of Staff Victor Iyenjay. Details her allies say prove a conflict of interest. Attorneys also highlighted her role in the arrest of Union President Carlos Tapia, who was later cleared by the district attorney. Corpus' legal team says she is under attack because of resistance to her efforts to reform, cut overtime abuse, and diversify the department.
Well, the allegations are, they're false. And I will continue to fight. I will continue to prove to this county that I continue to keep them safe. I will continue to invest in our officer wellness. I'll continue to invest in the community. And that's how I'll continue to keep my job.
The public hearing resumes on Monday and runs through Friday. After that, the judge has 45 days to make a recommendation. The Board of Supervisors then has 30 days to decide, with a 4/5 vote required to remove Corpus from office. In Fairfax, the city is set to clear a homeless encampment at Perry Park this morning. This comes after months of legal battles. A federal judge denied campers' request for a stay, ruling the town did not violate disability laws. Officials say they will offer storage and moving help, but unhoused people say they are at risk because of a limited number of shelter beds. Let's go to the East Bay now. A heads up for drivers in Contra Costa County. Caltrans has shut down the southbound Appian Way overpass in Pinole for the final time this weekend. Crews are replacing bridge pads and railings. Traffic is being detoured onto westbound 80 before looping back to Appian Way. The closure runs through 4 a.m. on Monday. Berkeley Humane is launching a new program called Fire Paws. It's a rapid response foster team to protect pets when disaster strikes. Emergencies like wildfires can overwhelm shelters quickly. So Fire Paws will train volunteers to step in quickly to give cats and dogs safe homes until they can reunite with their families. A public information booth is open today from 10 to 4 at Berkeley's Humane headquarters on 9th Street. Mountain View headquartered Intel has agreed to sell a 10% stake to the U.S. government in what President Trump calls a historic move. It's a deal worth nearly $9 billion, making Washington one of the chip maker's biggest shareholders. The agreement follows weeks of pressure on Intel's new CEO, Lip-Bu Tan. The deal converts billions in federal CHIPS Act money into equity for taxpayers. The U.S. will not get a board seat, but taxpayers are already looking at a nearly $2 billion gain in stock value. Trump says this corrects what he calls giveaways by the Biden administration. Critics warn the partnership could distort the tech market and raise issues about government involvement in private industry. Another tech deal to talk about this morning. Elon Musk agreed to settle with thousands of former Twitter employees who say they never got the severance they were promised when he took over the company a couple of years ago. Court filings show that X, formerly Twitter, will pay $500 million to about 6,000 employees. This will bring a class action lawsuit to an end. The workers argued Twitter's severance plan guaranteed at least 2 months of pay, but many of them got little to nothing after Musk slashed the company's workforce in 2022. Lawyers have not said how much each worker will receive. Separate lawsuits about Musk's takeover, including one from a former CEO, are still moving forward. 6:11 on this Saturday morning. Let's take a look at some events happening around the Bay this weekend. The Red Bull Dance Your Style event hits San Francisco's SVN West today, bringing in the nation's top freestyle talent for the U.S. national final. The event will feature a special performance from Oakland's Too Short. Also in San Francisco, Chinatown comes alive today for the Hungry Ghost Festival. The Chinese Culture Center hosts the third annual event with a parade, artistic displays, dance performances, and a 16-foot Ghost King at Portsmouth Square. In the South Bay today, the Make-A-Wish Greater Bay Area is making a milestone with 10,000 wishes granted. A Walk for Wishes starts at 10:15 this morning at Vasona Lake Park. It will honor 13-year-old Zoe from Alameda. Her dream trip to South Korea for a K-pop experience came true earlier this month. Coming up after the break, you don't just chuck them after you shuck them. I'll tell you how one group is using discarded oyster shells to help restore our waterways.
We depend on bays for recreation. We depend on them for just the beauty of them. We depend on them for so much economic interest.
They may not sound delicious right now, but oysters are definitely considered a delicacy around the world. In fact, nearly 2 billion are eaten every year across the globe. Here in the Bay Area, there certainly is quite an appetite for oysters. And a local group is capitalizing on that to help the environment by recycling shells to rebuild ecosystems.
You can see a little oyster there.
They're small yet mighty organisms.
Oysters are so important to marine ecosystems.
And if anybody knows a thing or two about oysters and the role they play as ecosystem engineers and shoreline stability stalwarts,
But they filter 10, 20, 30 gallons of water a day.
it's Jeevan Kaki.
They help to clean the water of pollutants and particulates and algae that we might not want in it. My whole kind of drive as a scientist is to see the species succeed and to help restore our estuaries because we really depend on them.
Kaki is the lead scientist for the Wild Oyster Project. It's a group that is working to bring native oysters back to San Francisco Bay.
Because of historic human activity and historic changes in the bay, we really lost a lot of our oyster populations in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And only recently have they really started to come back with our restoration efforts.
That includes the team's creation of these oyster reef balls, aka orbs. You can see the top sticking out above the water at low tide, to build the Heron's Head Oyster Reef in Bayview Hunters Point.
It's so cool to see projects like this work. We've exceeded our project goals each year. We keep finding more and more oysters on the reef balls, which is pretty exciting.
The team built the orbs with a material best suited for success: recycled oyster shells. And they're able to acquire them largely thanks to people in the Bay Area having quite the appetite for oysters.
We sell about 3,000 oysters a week.
Rachel Barrett and her team at Mission Rock Resort don't throw out their oyster shells. They put them in bins like these for the Wild Oyster Project to pick up on a routine basis.
They're here usually once a week.
And they're just one of many restaurants doing this. She and the team say they depend on fresh and clean seafood to run their business.
We are very focused on local products.
So they feel like supporting an effort to maintain and revitalize the local marine ecology is really a no-brainer.
No matter how big, how small, everybody can make a contribution.
So we use the shell for all kinds of stuff. We use it in oyster reef balls. We use it in other oyster restoration projects. We've also started partnering with marsh restoration efforts.
Kaki says the mission to restore habitats and protect shorelines is only growing more important for the region as sea levels rise and the climate changes.
We depend on bays for recreation. We depend on them for just the beauty of them. We depend on them for so much economic interest. Everybody that lives on a bay, even if you don't go to the beach every year, you depend on it in one way or another.
And fostering an environment for these small creatures to flourish may play a mighty role in the bay's health and future. So the Wild Oyster Project also is using oyster shells to restore the Napa River salt marsh, which is a habitat for ground nesting birds. As of June, they now have 15 active nests. It's one of the really cool things about living here in the Bay Area. You have so many smart people working to make the Bay a better place, and you learn something new every single day.
I love it. It's so interesting. And that project specifically helping the marine environment get healthier, what could be better than that? I love it's very similar. It reminds me of that living wall that's outside of San Francisco in the Embarcadero area.
Yeah, the seawall.
The seawall, yes. Yep. I think those things are so cool. Only very smart people can think of that, though. Exactly. And we have a lot of those in the Bay.
Part to save the environment.
Yeah, eat oysters and do your part. What a better way to spend your Saturday afternoon. But be aware, if you want to eat some oysters along the coast, you might be dealing with a bit more of this fog. As a cool down, it has arrived. You probably felt it a little bit more yesterday along the coast. And today, yes, we are expecting those more true foggiest conditions, although it's still a beautiful sunrise. From above the clouds, this is our view from the top of Sutro Tower. Its little head is peeking up and showing us a gorgeous view, but most of us not looking at that gorgeous view. Most of us are looking at this. Most of us are basically inside of a cloud, maybe a little bit of a misty start to our morning in San Francisco. Temperatures, though, are mild. They're sitting in the mid to upper 50s to low 60s, kind of just depending on your location. And the cloud coverage to start off our day is the reason that we're milder and the reason that we are actually containing a little bit more moisture this morning compared to yesterday, which is great news for the Pickett fire because current temperatures of 58 degrees, that is calm, that is comfortable. And those winds are calm as well, maybe up to 2 miles an hour. So when it comes to having to deal with trying to put out the flames early this morning, firefighters should not have any dangerous weather conditions to contend with, which is really great news. Into this afternoon, there might be some gustier winds, maybe up to 20, 25 miles an hour. But again, compared to what we could be seeing this time of year, we could be seeing offshore winds. These winds are all going to be coming from the onshore direction. So it's actually going to usher in a little bit more moisture, and it's not going to allow our fire weather conditions to get nearly as bad. So this afternoon, we might be level 2 or 3 on a scale out of 10. So it's not going to be nearly as high as it could be. By tomorrow afternoon, very similar to today, maybe a 2 or a 3. Whereas on Friday, when the fire started, they were at levels 5 and 6. So there was much higher fire weather when this started. And luckily, as the fire weather continues to decrease and temperatures continue to decrease, it is not going to allow those flames to spread any quicker or exacerbate those fire conditions. Stepping out right now, though, we're looking at quite a lot of cloud coverage along our coastal communities. That true foggist weather, it has returned, and it's going to stick around along the coast throughout this afternoon. Keep that in mind if you plan on heading to the coast today. It is going to be a cloudy one out there and likely going to stay cloudy directly in the line of the Golden Gate and sticking around throughout the afternoon hours. That's going to keep those temperatures significantly cooler along the coast, mid to lower 60s along the coast and maybe even upper 60s in San Francisco. North Bay communities are going to be in the 70s and 80s, while inland East Bay community is going to be sitting in the low 90s, not upper 90s to triple digits like what you were feeling, but it's still going to be pretty warm out there heading on farther inland. It's the coastal communities that, again, are going to be a bit cooler, so it all depends on your plans. Maybe you're heading out to the Chargers versus 49ers game. I'm jealous. Make sure you grab sunglasses, sunscreen. It's not the hottest that it could be for the game, but definitely it's hotter than it has been, so I want to make sure that you are all prepared. Still practice heat safety because it is going to be warm, seasonable out there this afternoon. Cooling down by the end of the weekend and into early next week, where slightly below average conditions will be returning to the forecast, so keep that in mind. Don't expect the warm weather to stick around forever, but enjoy it while you can. Max, back to you.
Coming up after the break, a man who was wrongly deported to El Salvador, then jailed back in the United States, is now back with his family in Maryland. But the Trump administration says it wants to deport him once again. We'll have the latest there. Plus, a federal judge in San Francisco expands an injunction to allow federal funding to continue for more of the so-called sanctuary cities where immigrants have certain protections.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Morning Edition.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Max Darrow. First Alert meteorologist Zoe Mintz joins us now live. And Zoe, we've got a lot of weather to talk about today. We have the Pickett fire burning in Napa, just northeast of Calistoga. What can you tell us about the weather today? Will firefighters get any help?
There is luckily good news when it comes to the fire weather conditions. If we take a closer look at exactly where the Pickett fire is right now, you can see it is nearby Calistoga, just northeast of it. It's heading over towards the mountains right now. There are helicopters that have been fighting it all night long, and they are not going to create or see any additional issues created by the wind, which is really great news. If we look at our current conditions right now, temperature is 58 degrees, relative humidity 90%. That is really, really great news because we want more moisture. Moisture is a good thing. And calm winds along with that moisture, also really great. No gusty winds right now. And let's take it to the ground and kind of show you exactly what we are going to be seeing over the next couple of hours when it comes to our air quality, because that's the biggest issue. The Pickett fire is creating some really bad air quality up across our North Bay communities, but it's not for everyone. So let's take a zoomed in look on the Pickett fire close up and show you exactly where the air quality is going to be worse, because the winds are pushing it off to the northeast. So anybody who's west of the fire, you should be good when it comes to air quality. But if you're east or northeast of the Pickett fire, that's where the issues is. It's not just the Pickett fire, though. It's also the Park fire that's down near Dublin and Pleasanton. 75% contained, luckily, so it's not producing nearly as much smoke, but air quality could still be an issue there. And I'll let you know exactly how long we are expecting these windier onshore winds to stick around for coming up in my full forecast. Max, back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Zoe. A lot to go over there today. A man who the U.S. government says was deported to El Salvador by mistake was reunited with his family in Maryland after being released from custody. But as CBS News' Christian Benavides reports, this reunion may be short-lived, with the Trump administration once again vowing to deport him, this time to East Africa.
Overnight, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador in March, was reunited with his family after being detained for 160 days, including nearly 3 months at one of the most notorious prisons in the world, El Salvador's Sikot prison.
Que todavía falta que se haga justicia.
I'm so grateful for them, and I want them to know that we have made a closer step towards justice, but we still need more justice.
In a video released by an advocacy group and through a translator, Abrego Garcia thanked supporters and those who prayed for him. He was released from criminal custody on pre-trial detention ahead of a federal trial on charges he smuggled immigrants into the U.S., something he denies. But now the Trump administration is vowing to redeport him to the East African country of Uganda, which has agreed to accept some U.S. deportees.
He does still face arrest and deportation by immigration officials. Why? He entered the country illegally back in 2011 and has an active deportation order. And so technically, it is legally permissible for the Trump administration to try to deport him to any other country in the world except El Salvador.
What do we want? Justice for Kilmar.
Abrego Garcia's case became a flashpoint for the early days of the second Trump administration's deportation efforts. The Salvadoran national was deported to El Salvador despite a court order he should not be sent there due to safety reasons. ICE called his initial removal to El Salvador an administrative error.
A federal judge in San Francisco just expanded a ruling against the Trump administration, blocking efforts to strip funding from dozens of so-called sanctuary cities across the country. The new order protects 34 more cities and counties, including L.A., Boston, Chicago, and Baltimore. Judge William Orrick said the administration cannot pull federal grants based on local sanctuary policies. His earlier injunction in April covered 16 jurisdictions, including San Francisco, Seattle, and Portland. This new decision protects hundreds of millions of dollars in funding used for community health, safety, and social services. The judge said the administration had offered no opposition to an extended injunction, except to say the first one was wrong. The administration has appealed that initial order. State lawmakers in Texas have passed a redistricting plan, one backed by President Trump, that could shake up next year's midterm elections. The Texas Senate did approve the bill after hours of debate, sending it to Governor Greg Abbott's desk to sign. It redraws the congressional maps to create 5 new Republican-leaning districts. It's a move critics say dilutes minority voting power. Democrats vow to fight the maps in court. The push comes as Republicans look to protect the narrow House majority. Democrats in California continue to push their own plan now in response to flip 5 GOP seats. As mentioned, Governor Gavin Newsom is pushing hard for a California redistricting plan, saying it's all about stopping President Trump's efforts to flip those seats in Congress. Newsom and Democrats in the legislature made the special election official this week. setting up Prop 50 for November. The measure would redraw California's maps to create 5 more Democratic-leaning districts. Newsom framed the move as a counter to redistricting plans in Texas and other GOP states, saying California needs to fight back. He spoke yesterday about this message to voters.
Donald Trump knows he will lose the midterms. He knows he'll lose next November. Why else do you call a governor of a red state and say you're, quote unquote, entitled to 5 seats? He did his bidding. He's not just trying to rig things in Texas. He's doing it in Indiana. He's doing it in Missouri. And he'll do it in Florida. We responded to what occurred.
The initiative needs majority support from voters to pass. A UC Berkeley poll released Friday shows it has not quite reached the threshold so far. 48% say they support Prop 50, 32% say they oppose it, 20% still undecided. We'll be watching that one closely. And when we come back, Northern California's biggest wildfire of the year is currently burning in Napa County. We'll have a live conversation with a man helping out with the effort to contain the Pickett fire and more about suppression efforts after the break. Welcome back. The Pickett fire burning near Calistoga has grown to nearly 4,000 acres. This morning, CAL FIRE says it is 7% contained. Hundreds of personnel are battling this fire as it continues to burn in a geographically tricky spot. This morning, we are taking a closer look at how fuel management has shaped the response. Joining us live now is Joe Nordlinger, the CEO of Napa Community's Firewise Foundation, also a volunteer Napa County firefighter. Joe, thanks for being with us this morning for everything you do in Napa County.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for highlighting this event and this issue more broadly.
Absolutely. So, Joe, how have fuel reduction projects affected the Pickett fire and the ways crews can respond?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that go into pre-fire work, which is really efforts to mitigate the impacts of wildfire. And that pre-fire work can include fuel management projects or dozer containment line projects. Napa Firewise is a 501c3 here in Napa County. We work really closely with all of our agency partners, CAL FIRE, Napa County Fire. We work closely with the county. And we undertake projects to reduce fuel at a landscape level around the county to protect our communities. We also work to maintain and reestablish dozer containment lines, check lines. And so in this particular fire, there are a number of projects that we've completed that are being utilized and or are fallback projects that will be used depending on how the fire evolves.
So Napa County obviously has a really long history with major wildfires. This area in particular was one that the Glass Fire did burn as well. Would you say this area now is more resilient than it was a few years ago?
I think we learned a lot from the Glass Fire, and obviously a lot of land area was impacted by the fire. So we've integrated that into a lot of our strategies at a countywide level, Napa Firewise has, and our agency partners. And so some of those containment lines that were put in during the Glass Fire, we've worked to maintain. We've worked to sort of leverage some of the fuel reduction that naturally took place as a result of those fires and to try to reinforce those fuel reduction projects. In many respects, yes, Napa County is far more fire resilient today than we were 5-7 years ago. We've undertaken a lot of fuel mitigation projects, a lot of dozer containment line work, a lot of wildfire preparedness work to educate our landowners. Napa Firewise works really closely with private landowners, with land trusts, with many of the folks that are large landowners in these rural areas.
So so many different elements to a response. There's the Napa Firewise dozer operator. Can you tell us how that kind of works before, during, and after a wildfire?
Yeah, so before a fire, Napa Firewise has a number of assets, dozers and masticator assets. We use those before fires, to do all this pre-fire work. And then during fires, often in this case, we have one of our operators out there with a piece of our equipment that was purchased for us. This one was purchased for us by the vintners, Napa Valley Vintners. And so at the direction of CAL FIRE, we're out there improving some of the lines that we've done work on and helping firefighters to understand where some of our projects are located. We also make sure that these projects are mapped into the incident management systems that CAL FIRE uses and Napa County Fire uses during these response events.
Obviously helpful for everybody on the ground there. Finally, Joe, you're a volunteer firefighter as well. You were out there, correct, in the past couple of days on this fire, right?
That's right. I was out there the first night of the fire and through yesterday.
You know, just bring us into that moment, if you will. What did it look like? What did it feel like?
I mean, it's a large wildland fire. There's, the fire sort of progressing rapidly. We're very fortunate in this particular situation. The weather is really favorable. It was a hot, dry day, so fuel moisture was low. But the reality is that we got very fortunate that it wasn't a high wind event. And so when a fire is moving out in a really rural wildland area like that, it's pretty dramatic. It was incredible to see the show of force by CAL FIRE and all the responding agencies. Very impressive. The very aggressive attack plan. And so there's been quite a bit of work that was done to contain the fire and to build these large containment lines and areas with retardant and whatnot. So CAL FIRE really responded, and Napa County Fire responded quickly, and there are a lot of folks that are working on it.
And they will continue working, and they did through the night as well. That response will continue for the next couple of days, I'm sure. Joe Nordlinger, CEO of Napa Community's FireWise Foundation, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it. Thanks for highlighting the issue. Appreciate it as well. Absolutely. All right, coming up after the break, the world faces an overload of single-use plastics. It's a Bay Area-based effort that's seeking to make headway on cutting down the amount of waste. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. Welcome back. In this morning's Project Earth, the world produces more than 400 million tons of plastic waste every single year. That amount, it's enough to fill more than 1 million garbage trucks. And unfortunately, less than 10% of the plastic is actually recycled. So a growing trend in the Bay Area promises to keep all of it out of the landfills. Here's Juliette Goodrich.
In the San Francisco Bay Area, on the island of Alameda, right on Webster Street, step inside and check out this small store with a big vision.
This is absolutely fantastic.
Here, you'll find a way to save money and support a family-owned business. It's also where the locals know how to fill her up and reduce the use of fossil fuels at the same time.
I'm here because I don't like plastic.
Welcome to Replenish Marketplace, one of the Bay Area's newest refill shops.
I saw there's one in Alameda, so here we are. We're checking it out.
I'm looking for detergent.
Some hand soap today.
Oh, I like lavender. Yeah, let's do lavender.
Refill shops allow customers to reuse their old containers to buy everyday essentials. At Replenish, if you forget, no sweat.
You can get a jar or container from their local jar supply. Yeah, these are containers donated by the community.
It is a dream come true for me.
Laria Pippin is the founder and owner of Replenish. She's also a pediatric nurse concerned about plastic waste.
There's a lot out there about microplastics and the harms to our body. That said, we want to be hopeful.
Personally, I don't think it's something we can ever get rid of, but we can definitely mitigate its imprint in the world.
Stephen is her husband.
We're here to work with people. That's what it all comes down to.
This is just convenient, and you're cutting the waste out, so.
I already had it. Might as well use it if I have it. It's better that I use it again than that it goes to a landfill.
It's widely reported how less than 10% of plastic is recycled globally.
As recyclers, we're trying very hard to recycle more plastics to get that percentage higher. But we can't do it on our own.
We're always encouraging people to reduce how much they produce and how much they use.
Logan Harvey and Robert Reed are both with Recology. The company's state-of-the-art facility in Santa Rosa processes more than 16,000 tons of plastic every year. They applaud the growing popularity of refill stores.
It's great. They're really cool idea, very kind of a back to basics.
At Recology, we absolutely love the refill stores.
as do their customers.
There's something really special about being able to replenish items that you're regularly buying without having to purchase a new container.
Sometimes people just feel so overwhelmed by the plastic crisis and the climate crisis that they're just not sure where to start. And so we just want to welcome people with open arms and say, hey, we're here to help. And here's some ideas for you.
We make a difference, but it's also our customers that are helping make the difference.
And that's filling up the world with hope.
First Alert meteorologist Zoe Mintz joins us live now. And Zoe, we've spent a lot of the morning talking about the Pickett fire and conditions there, but obviously the rest of the Bay Area is still seeing very different weather conditions today.
Yeah, and I mean, just overall, yes, there was the wildfire, but it could have been so much worse. There could have been offshore winds, and those winds could have been stronger. There also could have been a lot more dry fuel moisture. The drought conditions could have been worse. So I just like to look on the positive side of things because there is a lot of moisture streaming into the Bay Area. That moisture is actually going to continue throughout the entire weekend, which again is great news for those firefighting efforts. The weather shouldn't hamper any of those firefighters out there this morning or throughout this afternoon. As you can see, a lot of moisture is currently streaming. This is San Francisco, and it's going to continue to stream a little bit farther inland over the next couple of hours. But those of us who do live in San Francisco and along the coast, this is the view that we're waking up to. It's very foggy, head in the clouds on top of Salesforce and Mark Hopkins. Temperatures right now, mid to upper 50s to low 60s, kind of just depending on your location. It's a mild start to the day, a couple of degrees warmer than yesterday because of that increased cloud coverage. The winds this afternoon, again, nothing too crazy, 20 to 30 miles an hour. And coming in from that onshore direction means it's actually going to be ushering in more moisture and more comfortable heat, especially across our inland locations that are still going to be about 4 to 5 degrees above average. But for this time of year, that's very normal. That is nothing too out of the ordinary, as there's a lot more cloud coverage and a lot more onshore winds that, again, is allowing those temperatures to be just a bit cooler. There is still a heat advisory in place across our inland East Bay communities and down into the Santa Clara Valley. However, I don't really necessarily agree with this heat advisory because temperatures aren't really going to be very above average down in San Jose and only a couple of degrees above average across those inland East Bay communities. So yes, still warm, and especially because it's the third day in a row of that slightly above average heat. Practice heat safety, but again, honestly, I really don't know why there is that heat advisory. Those temperatures across our inland communities are in the mid to lower 90s. Again, that's pretty normal for August. Down into the Santa Clara Valley, mid to upper 80s. North Bay communities also going to be in the mid to lower 80s, while closer to the coast to escape the heat. Enjoy the cloud coverage while you're at it. Mid to lower 60s along our coastal communities. And if you really want to head out to the coast, again, still put on sunscreen and sunglasses because you could still get burned through the clouds. Look at tomorrow, though. You'll notice those cooler onshore winds will persist, allowing even those inland East Bay communities to feel those cooler temperatures. So by tomorrow afternoon, even places like Livermore in Antioch, Fairfield are going to be in the upper 80s to maybe low 90s. And our coastal communities staying in the mid to lower 60s. San Francisco, upper 60s. Oakland, low 70s. It's all relative for this time of year, but temperatures are definitely going to be more comfortable throughout the rest of the weekend and into early next week. So it really all depends on what you liked. If you've been missing those more summer-like temperatures, I hope you enjoyed them the past couple of days because we are on a cool down with relatively below average temperatures that are actually going to stick around throughout the middle to later parts of this upcoming week. So no big heat up is on the way, which honestly is good news when it comes to our fire conditions. Below average also for areas by the bay, going to be staying in the low 70s with a good amount of morning fog giving way to afternoon sunshine. The coast is going to be seeing that true foggiest weather that's going to hold tight at least throughout the weekend ahead of us. Keep that in mind for any beach plans. You're probably not going to need the sunglasses too much. Max, back to you. I really hope you all enjoyed the summer-like heat over the past couple of days because a cool down with below average temperatures are on the way as we step out late this weekend and into early next week. Get ready for the return of mid-80s, but honestly, inland locations, mid-80s, that's really nice. Today, a little bit warmer, mid to lower 90s max. That's warm, but honestly, it's within a degree or two of normal for this time of year, and that gradual cool down is going to stick around through next week. So honestly, pretty nice out there.
Hopefully helpful for firefighters up in Napa as well.
Exactly.
All right, thanks for that, Zoe. Finally this morning, scientists say they have discovered a previously unknown dinosaur species.
Yes, and this one comes with quite the look. Think 6 feet tall, weighing more than a ton, with a giant sail running down its back. Researchers in London named it Istiorakis macathuri, that's a mouthful, after the British sailor Ellen MacArthur. That makes sense. They say the creature had dramatic sail-like structure along its spine. Scientists are not sure exactly what it was used for, but they think it may have helped the animal show off for potential mates.
Show off instead of defense mechanism there. Very interesting. Okay. Fossil was actually dug up about 40 years ago, but experts only realize now that it belonged to an entirely new species. They believe this dinosaur tipped the scales at more than 2,200 pounds.
You know, dinosaurs are a lot like birds, so that does make sense. You know how birds kind of dance around to show off to their mates? Kind of similar idea, dance around with its big thing on its back.
I wonder if that thing had a good mating call, like birds do too.
If you actually go online, they've blown through the vocal cord of a dinosaur and you can hear what it would sound like, potentially.
Good material to look up later. Right? Thank you for that, Zoe. Thanks for watching KPIX News this morning. Don't forget the news continues all day on CBS News Bay Area. Have a great Saturday.